happy morning to all of you. I hope you're all doing good. I'm Gayatri S. Iyer, your host for this session. I extend a warm welcome to all of you on this new day with the first track, and we are going to be talking about media and journalism. Before we move on with our session, I'd like to introduce you to our moderator for this session, that is going to be Mrs. Roja Kandar. She is a media consultant and freelancer for TV media and press. She has over a decade's experience in newspaper journalism and less than a decade in teaching journalism by heading the media department at Christ University and Garden City College. And she's also a consultant at St. Joseph's College for Media for the postgraduate students. Presently, she is a panelist in local television channels and has earlier worked in the Asian Age, the Times of India, the Vijaya Times, and the Deccan Herald. She was trained at the Hindu, and during her reporting time, she simultaneously wrote for Kannada sister publications like Vijaya Karnataka and Prajavani. At 26 years of age, she was the youngest chief of a news bureau in Bengaluru. Her specializations include all beats like civic, education, crime, travel, medicine, fashion, and many other fields. Her educational qualifications are double MA in journalism and astrology. She's a distinction holder in astrology from Bharatiya Vidya Bhavana and has got second rank in MA Media Studies from Bangalore University. She was also first ranker in BA Journalism from Mount Carmel College, the seventh ranker in PUC from National College Jayanagar, and the 13th ranker in SSLC from Mary Immaculate School in Wilson Garden. She was also the first ranker in the All India UGC NEET exam in journalism and mass media for lectureship that was held in the mid-90s. We are pleased to have you with us today, ma'am. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Moving on to our panelists who would be joining our leading lady in today's discussion. With us, we have Mr. Verghese P. Abraham, who's Assistant News Editor at ETV Bharat. We also have Saji P. Matthew, who's Dean of Studies for Center of Media Studies at Jyoti Nivas College in Bengaluru. We also have Sekalu Niekha, who's Director of Operations at Our Young Voices and is also a freelance graphic designer. And finally, we have Sanjana Suprati, who's a student at Jyoti Nivas College, Bengaluru. We can't wait to hear the insights you all have to provide to us. Over to you, Ms. Roja, ma'am.
Thank you so much. The representations are from industry, institution, youth, professional, and youth itself. Okay, and there are various sessions in this youth career. But we as media people like to believe that ours is the best and ours is the most inevitable one because, media is the message. Okay, if there is no message, then, you cannot have your advertising or automobile engineering or whatever. Okay, so I believe that this session is the most important session and that, more number of people should get clued into this, what we are talking, because we are all storytellers at the end of the day. Okay, now what channel you choose, what medium you choose, what message you choose is secondary, but we need to tell a story, and everybody who's a good communicator will tell a good story. Okay, now there is another facet of it, that is, there are people who tell you a story with an agenda, they tell you a story with a incorrect medium. Okay, so there are issues which are hitting the media like they are hitting all other fields during the pandemic now. So my first question would be to Verghese, because he's in the thick of journalism now, unlike all of us. I want to ask him, media, Verghese, is one of the most affected fields in the pandemic. Okay, I'm told that some of the newspaper editions have even shut down because of fear of touching a newspaper. So what I want to know is, what is your view from the trenches? I mean, is it like, the youth have to look for new ways of expressing themselves, or which is a good medium for youth to look forward to? Firstly, your experience. Secondly, which is the medium that youth should look forward to?
Well, if you ask me, during this pandemic times, one of the biggest mediums, I mean, when it comes to the kind of news transfer that we are looking at, one of the biggest problems that have been faced among all the media industries that we look at is print. And print has been suffering because of this. As you rightly pointed out, there are rumors about whether you'll get COVID infection because of holding a newspaper, and that it goes through many hands. There are so many issues about it. Now, one thing because of this that we have come to know is that how you can make it into an opportunity. Most of the print houses have now invested in their digital media. And you would be surprised to know that digital news consumption has increased by almost 40% when it came to the first month of the pandemic lockdown. And after that, it has actually increased to almost 60 to 70%. And news, when it comes to television, also has seen a marked increase in consumption because people were sitting at home and they were in fact consuming news as such in whatever languages. Regional languages also had a boost in it. Now, there is another question about how the revenues are coming in. That's a different question, but they were able to, in fact, ensure that whether it is print or television, they went into the digital mode. So when you ask about future, it is actually digital mode is going to become the future because at the end of the day, it gives two options to the person who's consuming the news. One, he can see the news at the time he wants. Second, he's not an appointed viewee in case of television, or he's not, buying a product. He's also safe because the news is arriving straight into his mobile phone or whatever electronic gadget which he uses as an interface. So he's able to use that. So now there has been, especially during the pandemic times, there's been an explosion of news apps. Traditional industries or traditional companies that have been into news have also ensured that their apps are improved upon. They have invested so much. In fact, along with news apps, you have the software industry also booming, because especially those who are taking care of news apps now, because that is the hottest thing right now, because everybody wants to be safe while consuming news. And of course, if they are on the go out, they want to just consume it from their mobile phone or whatever user interface they are looking at. Now, another crucial thing has come is there is a new kind of writing that is coming in, a writing skill that is coming. How do you write for a digital medium? Now, it is not something that, you go by the inverted pyramid or something like that. Because in digital news consumption also, there are various categories. We are looking at 100-worded news story, or maybe just a 25-worded news story in case of InShots. We are looking at 100-worded news story when it comes to other publications. At the same time, they're also looking at people who just want a 1-minute video, who just wants to know what the entire news is about. Within 1 minute, they need to consume it. So they are not looking at with an anchor there who's explaining to you or anything like that. There are discussions that are happening also in digital. This thing, they're holding webinars and live, just like how we are doing it. That is also being streamed, because again, we have these meeting apps that have come in, and it's come in very handy for the news industry as such.
Correct.
These meeting apps, we are able to, in fact, ensure that we are able to get ministers, politicians, decision makers, industrialists, because now most of them are available at home. So they are able to immediately join you, and you can do it from whichever city. You just need to give a phone call, and you can do it from whichever city possible. So the traditional way for going behind, taking an appointment, waiting for their hours, setting up your camera, it is over. That kind of a traditional thing. You can have instant news. Now, even television, what they're doing is they are beaming a meeting app, meeting with these so-called people, and they can immediately put it on television as well. So a lot of cost factor is reduced. But since the cost factors have reduced, they want a new skill set.
Correct.
They want journalists who can not only write in print, they can also write in for television. They know how to write television script. At the same time, they want someone who can also meet digital needs. And because they want to meet in digital needs, because digital follows both, in the sense they have the print article as well as the television article. So you need these two skill sets that could be summarized in such a way that you give short news scripts immediately for digital. You'll be surprised that digital news videos have a huge consumption.
Correct.
And some of the debates, but the thing about it we have to notice is that everything has to be said in a short time. Your packages traditionally in news televisions used to be 2 minutes 30 seconds. That has been reduced to 1 minute. Your debates used to be around 1.5 hours or 1 hour. That has been reduced to just 15 minutes. And your special features have also been reduced to 10 minutes maximum. So don't drag it on. Now,
That's very interesting, Verghese. Let me just bring in Sanjana. Sanjana, I'm sure what he told was extremely useful to you. So my question to you is, in terms of students, how ready are you with the upskilling for the upcoming media jobs, which he just mentioned?
Colleges, while we learn things, it's mostly theories. Because of the pandemic, just 1 year into journalism, we didn't get to really go to the field and do a lot of things. But as I hear Sir speak, my concern right now is how to keep up with it. What do I do during pandemic? We don't know how long we're still going to be stuck in. How do I keep up? How finally when I come out and go out to media companies, how do I make my resume stand out?
That is your concern.
That's my
Okay. Yeah, and you should have been writing already by now. But you should have started writing blogs and made yourself visible by now. So it's a little late and you have to buck up, okay? Because don't wait for the pandemic. Because during the pandemic, there are so many opportunities for us to write. You can just sit at home and write your experience itself, and that will be well read. So I'll go to your teacher, Father Saji. Saji, I want to know, how are you planning to nurture more industry academia partnership once your college reopens?
With regards to looking at the present situation, we haven't actually looked at how we will cope with this situation in terms of getting jobs, because the college is still working at how do we engage students for classes, etc. But then what I would personally see is that the present model of education is that we have a student who studies, pass their exams, and then gradually search for a job, and the industry kind of absorbs that person if she or he is competent. But I think we must really change the entire model in two ways. Number one is the industry must invest in educating the students for themselves. It's a win-win situation, in my opinion, where the colleges are extremely happy when their students are well placed in good places, earning well for their life, etc. And the industry also will be happy that they have employable workforce who are happy and contributing. So if that has to happen, I think industry must take a proactive step, perhaps come into the campus towards the end of a graduation program or a diploma program or a postgraduate program, and begin to train them. So be proactive. And what the result would be that they get a happy, competent workforce. Okay, that I think is the thing. Industry has to become more proactive. They have to chip in with perhaps their workforce, infrastructure, personnel, even financial resources to train students. Otherwise, what I see is institutions are quite kind of looking at stabilizing themselves. They don't like things which are too fast changing all the time. They can't change their syllabus so fast and so very often. So as a result, they are actually stuck in a kind of a corner.
Correct.
So the industry comes in and says what you want, and we'll train the students and take them to our industry for work, etc. Students feel very happy. They also do not have the stress of hunting for a job and getting lost in the process in the wrong job, etc. So I think that kind of a model would work. And secondly, I would also look at, if you look at the online platforms, like Mr. Verghese was also speaking, the online platforms are one advantage. That is, most of the online platforms are easy to kind of self-learn. Okay, it's not very complicated. It is not that we have to fit into a huge workforce and I must know my part of job, my job role, etc. Here, as an individual, I can just figure out a few things and start working and create a space for ourselves in that scenario, and slowly become visible and gradually grow in your field.
Yeah, actually, to just add on to what you said, there are media houses which run their own media colleges and things. But the threat there is that sometimes you're even, pushing down your agenda through those media colleges. You know what I mean? If a media house is owned by a particular, there is a threat that, you will slowly start training your student also in that way. So in that sense, my next question is to Sekulu, because, in the mock session, she was asking me, do you need to study journalism to be a journalist? Okay, which is a very pertinent question. Just like, we used to have these arguments in college when I was a teacher. Should you be teaching students journalism or should you be preparing them for the industry? Because nowadays nobody wants to study journalism. They just want a way to become a journalist. Okay, but the thing is that you cannot become a media person till you learn the basics of it. Everybody wants to jump into the bandwagon and become a Barka Dutt or an Arnab Goswami before, studying the theories of journalism. So my question to Sekulu is, based on what Shaji said and based on what Verghese and Sanjana said, there are some learned skills, if you figured out by now, and there are some unlearned skills. Okay, so how do you align the two?
One of the things that helped me in college was definitely that I took a bachelor of vocation. So it involved us with more practicals. So,
Okay.
so we would get projects and we would take the project as if it's a real thing, like for example, our print publication, we went
Okay.
out, interviewed, 20 women, wrote articles on it. But uh, in the sense of unlearning is after I came out of college and I was working at a publishing house as a design assistant, is
Okay.
that like you mentioned, I was there as a design assistant, but I also had to do other things. So
Okay.
that multitasking was something, like in college, right? One moment I'm vested in, okay, I'm doing this assignment, and then I get that break and then I do that exam. But then here I'm like, okay, 4 to 6 p.m. I have to finish this designing this magazine. 6 to 7 p.m. I have to figure out some way to get my boss this. Like he wants to host a workshop, so I have to get this done. So I think unlearning is also understanding that there is no concrete way of handling media because it's as
Correct.
vast as we could ever imagine.
True. Yeah. That's so interesting. Okay, Verghese, I just want to ask you, is there something that, you can forecast for the youth? Is there need for panic? I'm sure that never happens in the media. You're never going to run out of jobs. But then, what is it that you can forecast in terms of new opportunities? And how would you ask the youth to up their skills? What is it that you feel when youngsters join your media house? What do you think they lack?
The first thing that most of the time I've seen is that when you said, in fact, it makes a pertinent question of do you need to learn journalism to?
Yeah.
One of the things that I have noticed is that when students come in, the basic things are there about language and other things, but we can get it done. The biggest issue is that they have no idea about the historical nature of certain stories.
Okay.
So one of the things that we have seen it being completely lacking has been on that. Secondly, as I was telling you, most of the explosions have been on news apps and other things. So digital understanding of news has also something that is not there or persistent with a lot of people.
Okay.
Simple terms like permalinks or URLs, or they don't know how it functions or how it is of even in fact there has been a lot of talks about search engine optimization, that getting the right keywords, and these are things that keep changing every 6 months.
Okay.
So for a student to be latest skilled, he should also know that if he's coming into an industry like online media or any other industry, because most everybody is going online now, they have to understand that every 6 months they'll have to update their skills.
Correct.
And it's not that it's not available out there, because whether we like it or not, Google has a dominance over our search ability and what we
Yeah.
see and what we. But so we should understand it from the Google point of view, and they also, in fact, ensure that they have their own lectures and other things that are introduced. So we none of the companies have the time to keep skilling people every 6 months. So
Correct.
it is expected of the student or to skill themselves immediately, to be in the know-how of things, to know what is the latest gadget used, because the thing is that everything keeps changing within 6 months. That is, for example, if the print media had the time to change its layout, it probably took them 10 years to change it. But now
Correct.
it's not like that. We can change it in
Yeah.
immediately days. So it keeps changing. A lot of things keep, designs change, everything. So we expect the student like to be skilled with the latest technology, with the latest designs. They need to be knowing, and it happens in 6 months, which means it's going to be a very constant kind of a learning that you have to be in. There is no dogma now. There
Correct.
is
Yeah.
nothing called like, this is what the rules are, and this is what you have to follow. There's nothing like that now, because it's
Correct.
kept quite open.
Yeah.
There's a reason for it. Why I'm asking them to do it is because let me introduce you the idea of splinternet. Now the splinternet is that there are, from the internet, people are now having their own internets. For example, China is an example of a splinternet. They have put a boundary to their cyber wall. They're not directly, you have to go through passages and you can see only view what only they want you to view. So
Okay.
when splinternets are coming in, similarly traditional media also doesn't have the kind of dominance they used to have. You're
Okay.
having individuals coming up. People are listening to individuals on YouTube who have a new sense, who want to understand about issues. They're going to them. So traditional media is also not the one who's holding all the key as such.
Correct.
So in
Yeah.
that case, there's so much of opportunity for people who would keep upskilling themselves and upskilling their knowledge, and just need to be in touch with news as such and have their own view.
Okay.
So now the journalist over here is no longer a person, who just sits and write and then he's got a photographer to take. It is all in one.
Correct.
And he himself can be an institution by himself if he's able to establish himself quite well.
Yeah.
There are people who I know who make a lot of money by just giving in explainer videos of stories.
Correct. Yeah.
And a lot of students, in fact, they are much younger than us who are engaged in this thing, and they are making much more money than us also. So
Correct.
there is a lot of opportunity. The thing is to tap into that network, because language is, now for me, the constant challenge is what is the kind of language that I can speak so that the youngster will understand.
Yeah.
Traditionally, we used to have the 8th standard or 6th standard English, good English language. It's not like the 8th standard. There are a lot of lingos, as we put it in colloquial terms, that are there among the youth that is used by some of them to explain their stories.
Yeah.
One of the phenomenal changes I was saying about Wise Media, how Wise is not traditionally a traditional media.
Yeah.
They pick up untraditional stories. Their anchors or reporters are unconventional. So there's a lot of opportunities like that. There are a lot, and when you have a Mojo kit now, you have a mobile journalism kit. A person who just needs to invest in that kit, which could be around 25,000 or 30,000, or maybe a good one for 50,000, and have a editing system in 1 lakh, he becomes an institution overnight, because he's got a platform like YouTube for whom if he wants to keep it pay or keep it free, and he can get followers as much as possible. So this is the kind of revolution that is happening. So in that revolution, there is opportunities for you to become an individual entrepreneur. At the same time, if you want to be part of a traditional media house, you can become. So opportunities are galore, but the problem is a lot of them are not tapping into it, because 6 months learning, of course, can be a little lazy thing, but that is the level at which I'm saying 6 months now. Tomorrow it could be just 3 months.
I know. Yeah, true. Yeah. Fateh Saji, I just want to ask you, because I've been a teacher like you earlier, and I was always curious why people took up media and journalism. Sometimes it was for the fame earlier in my days, some people because of the so-called power, some people probably for the money, but actually there is no much money because we are just passionate about telling our story. So you've been handling students over years, okay, and particularly students of one gender. Now, my question to you is, what would you like to tell students? Because most of them come in without a clue, okay? Because we say, okay, I don't want science, I don't want maths, and then I take journalism, okay? But now in certain colleges like Christ, I'm sure the cream of, the best get into arts, and it's even difficult to get into media, I'm told, in many colleges. So my question to you is, what is that message you would like to give students who walk into a media course not having an aim of what they want? Okay, some of us are very passionate. So we'll say, I want to be a filmmaker, I want to be a PR person, I want to be an advertising professional. But for students who come in, it's not saying that they could be bad. I mean, they could turn out to be good media professionals. But as a teacher, it must be challenging for you to kind of get them focused. So just share your experience with us.
To look at the students, as what I see is, as things change outside, the students' aspirations also change. Okay, so it is not so much that we have something called a very prescriptive kind of education, though many of the subjects have a lot of theory which is ancient, which is there, which has, they need to know certain concepts and jargons, etc. The students must know, but not very prescriptive. So that students can gradually evolve. Most often, students take, as you rightly said, media field, be it filmmaking, be it advertising, etc. Because of it's very popular, glamorous, etc. And I say it is easy to get into a job because there are still media jobs available, but remaining in a job is very difficult. So getting students to understand there is worth in creativity, in original thinking, in critical thinking, that you create a space around yourself. Don't look at because this rapidly changing nature of media, also with our present pandemic scenario, things are rapidly changing. This is a new scenario, of course, but it's rapidly changing. Therefore, what they need to do is look at the strength and try to build a ground around themselves to stand on. Okay, so once they have a ground on, they can actually branch out into any side without much being, at risk. Okay, they have something to stand on, be it their own crisis management skills or adaptability skills and things like that. If we add those things to our education curriculum, I think possibly they will stand on by themselves. Okay, and of course, as they pass out, I think they'll also see what is current, what is relevant, what is making money at right now in the industry, and they'll also begin to look at it and try to adapt to it, and they will learn. I think that's how. So I would be against a kind of prescriptive kind of an education where you come in your journalism and you learn, as Mr. Varghese was saying, learn inverted pyramid style, and that is the style. No, things are rapidly changing. Be adaptive, look around, create network, begin to be connected with the people, reality, things like that. I think that kind of a mode might, uh, make them a little unsettled. Don't make them feel that you do this course and that is what the outcome. You're going to be an editor or you're going to be a writer or reporter. That would be a kind of a little disastrous in terms of the aspirations that they build up gradually.
Okay. Sekulu, I just want to ask you, because you've done enviable job at the grassroots level as far as sexual and reproductive rights are concerned. I mean, I would call you a development communicator in a sense. It's very difficult for development issues like family planning and so many other things that affect, people to find a space in media. You must have, faced that. Now, how do you think as a lobby group at a student level, we can encourage development issues to get into mainstream media? Of course, I mean, we cannot dictate what story Varghese is going to cover tomorrow because he is stuck between COVID, China, and Sushant Singh. We cannot pull him out of that. But can you tell me, as a person who's worked for family planning, what do you feel is the space for development issues, and how can students work to find more development issues in the media? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, that is what is going to affect us. If we don't have farmers, 10 years from now, we are not going to have food to eat. Okay, you can have your malls, but you will not have rice grains to eat. So, Sekulu, your opinion.
So one thing that I've realized as a media student and whilst working in community issues is the need for you to know certain issues beyond your journalism horizons. For example, the other day you were mentioning for you to employ someone to write on chess, you employ someone who plays chess rather than a journalist who can write on chess because they have that varied perspective. So my initial exposure to community issues was an internship I did as an experienced designer. So I'm there as a media student, but I'm learning from my colleagues, from my mentors, about family planning, about reproductive rights. I didn't even know about that such things exist because I grew up from a conservative society. So after
and you've reached to the level of United Nations recognizing you. Okay.
Okay. So it was a lot of unlearning and unlearning I had to do, like you mentioned already. And okay, I want to write, that I know for sure. I want to be able to design, but then I'm passionate about community issues as well. So how do I interlink this? And at the end of the day, like you mentioned, we're all trying to say a story. And my story is that I want such issues to be out in the mainstream media for anybody to, for such topics to be normalized. So, when news readers are reading about it, when writers are writing about it, and someone who is doing the community issues, that the distance between them or the bridge between them has to be, concise and has to be closer. It's not that, the writing is writing from one perspective, the worker is doing from one perspective, the reader is doing from another. It's because we're all, whole in one circle.
Very good. Okay, Sanjana, I want to know, till you attended college till the pandemic broke. So give me some interesting case studies from your classroom of students who've done amazing work in whatever passion they have. I mean, need not necessarily be connected to the media, but if you can share one or two case studies of students who've done amazing work so that it kind of inspires other youth. I can give you my own example, but I would like to hear from the younger generation now.
Okay, so case study so one of my friends, she was very passionate about writing poetry and all of that. So ever since I've known her, she's been writing that since the start of college. And by the end of this year, she's going to be publishing her own poetry book.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow.
So right now she's, on the lookout for people to who could invest in her, all of that. And there's another friend who was interested in graphic designing, and now she has interned just over the pandemic. She has interned for over 2-3 companies now, just in the span of 3-4 months. So I think they've constantly been trying in whatever they want to get into and trying to be updated, like Sir said, to be skilled. And they've been trying to learn as much as possible to stand out in their field, and I think that is gratifying to them.
Okay, I don't know if Verghese remembers. Yeah, Father Sajid, tell me.
A little to what Sanjana was saying.
Yeah.
I know also a few students, also classmates of Sanjana and maybe his senior, got into YouTubing. Okay, I think there's a lot of opportunity in YouTubing, and YouTubing about things that you are familiar with around your space, etc. And there is someone who began with just kind of reviewing beauty products.
Okay.
And then she did 1, 2, 3, and now there are beauty brands approaching her, paying her to review their products. And a few of them are got into various fields with YouTubing. I think that is another thing which happened with the pandemic.
To add to what Sir said, like YouTube is one platform, Instagram also. So now we have Instagram influencers who are with just phone cameras and all of that. They shoot videos and put on their Instagram posts, and still, people make money on Instagram, even TikTok for that matter.
Correct.
TikTok was banned. A lot of people lost their source of income. So that is another thing I wanted to add, ma'am.
Yeah. I don't know if Verghese remembered, but as a student, we used to discuss in MA journalism classes that it's your passion that is important. I mean, you could be a pet lover, or you can be a beautician, or you could be somebody just sitting at home and watching television. You can still write lots on, you can critique television content. Okay, so anything that is your passion, if cooking is your passion, you can make a media job out of your passion. So you don't have to go looking for a job if you have a passion. And the other thing about, if you have a choice of job is to ask yourself what you want that job for. Some of us might not need the money. We might need the fame. I might have a father who's backing me. Or some of us might want it because we want to put our passion through. Okay. So my question to Verghese is, because, they are all telling about YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, and we see that it's our growing up children. Fake news traveling, is sometimes wrong information going. What should the youth be careful about?
Well, as I told you, there is freedom now with regards to any individual actually using social media, as rightly pointed by all of them, and becoming an institution by themselves and spreading their stories and speaking about their stories. It is possible. But as you rightly pointed out, there is wrong information also going out. At the same time, there is an undercurrent, or rather now it's become quite open now. Many websites have said that they are only engaged in saying that this is a fake news and why it is a fake news.
Correct. Yeah.
So now, for example, now the trend is that if any person sees a particular news, he doesn't believe it because it could be that extra.
Correct.
Goes there and tries to go to certain website like Alt or others where they try to figure out, and even websites like Quint and others are also giving this fake news analysis kind of a thing. So they do go to these sites and say, yeah, this is fake. This viral is. So that itself is an opportunity. Again, I'm saying.
Yeah.
There are people who, when fake news became a concern, there was a problem, and people tried to find a solution for it, and they made it into a business opportunity.
Correct.
So a lot of people have to understand that there is a lot of opportunities as such. We might say that, okay, it is a problem, but when you try to bring a solution for it, that becomes the business opportunity that you have been looking at. You could be, in fact, quite skilled at that. A lot of people, in fact, when I was interacting with a group from one of the websites who were engaged with this fake news their job is only to track out fake news. They never knew that they had that skill to say that, yes, this is fake.
Like ethical hacking.
Yeah. Ethical hacking, yeah. They were looking at, they actually went, in fact, you'd be surprised that they have been pulling out articles of even prominent, well-established media houses saying that this is fake.
True. Yeah.
The trend is that when something goes viral and you tend to believe it, and technology has moved to such an extent that you can actually make it look real to such an extent that people might believe it. But there are people who are engaged in it, and they get a lot of hits onto their website because of this. So this is the thing about what is going to happen in the future. You are going to have a lot of checks and balances.
Okay.
Now, it depends upon which side of the thing. And then the other part of it you said about its passion. Yes, telling your story is a passion. We were in the era when the blogs were there. Now, people still have the thing to talk about blogs, and blogs have various kind of topics being included, from anything from politics to sports to everything is included. And as you said, even those who have a passion about pets, they write the stories of the pets. There are people who are going to read it. Now, what is happening is that, ma'am, once upon a time, you had been teaching about this mass medium and, it going out to the market. In a lot of sense, that doesn't exist anymore. The mass market for a mass medium doesn't exist anymore.
True.
You have a mass platform now.
Correct.
But what is there in that mass platform and who are the people coming to consume from that mass platform is totally different now.
Correct.
They have the choice. You cannot just throw something, because the choice is now at the end with the consumer.
Of the receiver, yeah.
It's with the consumer. It's the receiver who is having that choice now. In fact, we have to have some new theory to actually explain that. We are still in agenda setting and all this is because we thought that we were just pushing this into the masses.
True.
That is no longer the case. At the end of that, it is democratization of journalism and of internet space that we are looking at, and in that people have seen opportunities. So the youngsters who are coming out now, when they are passionate about things, they should follow their passion, and they should also understand that even if they are an individual, if they get even 1 million, 10 lakh likes, or even less than that, or even 100,000, there are people to sit and advertise. Like Father was saying, there are people who are saying, come review your beauty product. Maybe the person would be looking at 300,000 viewers, but 300,000 viewers for a person who wants to show the product is in fact a huge thing. You are actually reaching out to a large company. We don't know, for example, we put an ad on the newspaper, we don't know if someone has even read it or not.
True.
Here we know that the clicks are there, they have spent time on it, there have been views, they have been reached. So that is why a lot of companies are also going to these influencers, social media influencers, to promote that product. So there is a huge sea change that is happening, and it is a huge opportunity that is opening up. The idea is no longer you have people sitting and just consuming. They are becoming educated consumers, and they are also looking, for example, on Instagram, if you could, there are a lot of people who are just selling, they have a small brand.
Yeah.
And they produce only a certain amount of, maybe take a look at soaps. Maybe in a month, they produce only maybe 1,000 bars of soap.
Yeah.
The 1,000 bars of soap they are able to sell at the end of the day. They're not a huge company. They are able to sell, and they are still able to make profit. And they have a loyal following for it also.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of thing that we are looking at, where there is going to be a lot of choices, a lot of people getting into things, and a lot of people trying to get in touch with these people. So this is how. So entire revenue generation, when it comes to advertisement, has to be rethought, and the way we are putting out stories have to be rethought.
Correct.
Today, if I'm in a big institution, that institution should know that an individual can become his competitor tomorrow.
Correct. True.
He might not be having any fabulous thing, but if I miss out a story, that individual has taken that story and he's now famous with his content, then I have actually missed a story which an individual has put out. He's only an individual, but he has that. So this is the way we have to rethink the entire thing as a whole.
Yeah, Father Saji, like taking off on what Verghese said, earlier MG Road was the center of Bangalore. Everything was around MG Road. Then, we had if you were the most happening person, you came to MG Road and Brigade Road, whichever part of Bangalore you were. Then we had these malls coming up. So now we have a new system where everything revolved around a mall. So you're either going to Forum or Phoenix City, and that is how your identity. So then now so people didn't go far because of transport issues in Bangalore, and you didn't want to go to MG Road. If you had a mall near your house, you met your friends there and your life existed around the mall, particularly if you had a mall near your college. So now with this pandemic, that pattern also has changed because malls have closed down now. Okay, so now your life essentially revolves around just your house. Okay, so you probably know your neighbors better. So my question to you is that, because of you heard what Verghese has told and what Sekulu told, what I want to ask you is, we have a traditional module of ethics which we teach at college level, which I think is very essential, even if it is redundant and outdated, because you need to give them a solid foundation first in ethics. Okay, we have a lot of people who are like fly-by-night operators, even in the media. So what is the challenge for you to teach ethics to young and upcoming journalists? Or what do you think are the new modules that you need to introduce as far as ethics is concerned?
It's a very relevant question, which needs much more thinking into it. in terms of ethics in the current scenario in terms of comes back to some amount of personal ethics. I would say
Yes,
we have
yes.
ethics on plagiarism and things like that, which are actually also is relevant.
Yeah.
You also cannot do that as a person. You cannot plagiarize somebody's work, etc. But then at the point of being by myself, by ourselves within a house, I think what is to what ethics can be apply, etc. is, I think, mostly to do with kind of uh, that we respect others and respect our own space, and do not kind of misuse that kind of a virtual anonymity that we get in terms of venturing into somebody else's private space or somebody else's private life, and make money out of it.
Yeah,
So like
yeah.
you're talking about fake news. That is one maybe a kind of ethical thing to do perhaps. But at the same time, we can also probe more into somebody's life because I am kind of bored at home, and
Yeah.
therefore I try to find something more about somebody else, make kind of mess of it, and then get more viewers, more likes, more comments, and make a
Yeah.
kind of culture around it. Perhaps that kind of a thing. I cannot name it exactly what it
Yeah,
means,
yeah.
but that kind of a thing may happen, and that I think is perhaps bad. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of getting into basic rules of life, that we respect
Yeah.
one another as individuals, though we don't see them.
Yeah, yeah.
We are only seeing them on virtually, therefore still we respect them as human beings with human dignity, etc.
Sanjana, I want to ask you, how many years would you give yourself to find a job? And what is it that you look for in your job? What are the 3 most essential things that you look for in your job? And how many years would you give yourself to start working?
I would like to start working as soon as I'm done studying, ma'am. Within maybe a year, under a year, I would love to
Okay.
find a job by then. And
Which means you don't want to do a PG.
after my master's, after my PG, immediately after my PG, I
Okay.
would do my master's, and immediately after that, I would love to find a job under that year, probably the same year, if possible.
Okay. Okay.
So I would look for job security and to be able to voice my opinions and not compromise to the organization, and
Okay.
to just have freedom of speech there. Like I want to tell my story, like you told, we're all storytellers. I want to be able to put across my thought without facing consequences.
Okay. Like, for example, if I gave you an opportunity to write whatever story you want, what would your first story be on?
uh I mean, with respect to the situation right now, I probably write about COVID guidelines right now. Yeah, maybe a featured story on COVID guidelines, because we're always from with news and all that, it's really panicky when we watch the news. So maybe something lighter to read on, something lighter on a serious issue. I would.
Okay. Okay. Sekulu, could you share with us some experience you had, while working at a grassroots level for family planning? And what did you feel when, the media came to cover the situation?
Mhm. I haven't really done much actually with regards to family planning, because, like I mentioned, first year summer vacation, I interned with this organization, and then I started, you know, I, for some reasons, I got super vested in it. I was super interested in this issue, also because, again, it was a lot of unlearning to do. And after that, I ended up staying back in that organization after my contract got over, as a volunteer for 2 years. So, one thing that I've realized is, as we're discussing right now, anybody can be a journalist, because when we see Instagram, Facebook, everybody is trying to be a journalist. If you see, they're writing articles in their caption with a picture, taken a screenshot from Google.
All
and stuff.
storytellers, yeah, all
Exactly,
storytellers. Yeah.
all storytellers. But the thing that the issue that I find is the credibility. People have covered our works and so forth, and there are times when the certain channels are not official media channels, but then they have a huge following on Instagram or Facebook. So there they come in as a media person. But
Yeah.
what I realized when they interview us is that like I didn't know that they didn't study journalism, but after having read whatever they read, I'm like, okay, they didn't study because they don't know the ethics. They quoted us with words that we've never even said from our side. And it's not that they didn't write anything that is, you know, over controversial and whatever, but then, you know, as a media person, you know the importance and you know how much you respect quoting someone, because then you can't even miss out a quotation, you can't even miss out a punctuation.
Correct,
So
correct.
so I think you know, okay, your interest, you studied, you know, reproductive health, or you studied political science, and we understand you're interested in the issue, but what about the media ethics of it in writing that particular issue? So that is something that I have experienced
Interesting,
in that
interesting.
short span.
Yeah, Verghese, two things. Sanjana wants to put her opinion without the organization she's working for influencing it. And Sekulu wants journalists to get their quotes right, because, you know, when she's quoted in stories, sometimes her quotes are out of place. So what was the gap in ethics that you learned from college and in the media? And how should youth build their own ethics at an individual level? Because you cannot go looking for ethics in an institution or, you know, at a universal level. Yeah.
Ma'am, mostly as of now, what I understand is that when it comes to ethics, it is individual experiential learning. You can give a code of ethics, but as rightly
Yeah.
pointed out, it is completely out of tune with what is there now. One of the things that we must understand is that nowadays there is a very disturbing trend, and the trend is, for example, I'll give you a story from entertainment. Entertainment, when we had the Bachchan family inside the hospital,
Hospital.
yeah, because of the coronavirus infection. For me, what was disturbing was that people were making stories out of it. Not that the family has gone into the hospital, but there are trolls
Yeah.
who have gone ahead and they have actually written very unkind comments for their family.
Yes.
Some people say that why are you so special, or
Yeah.
that is kind of debatable about it, and that a lot of very very bad. I mean, I won't be able to tell it in a forum like this. So I had gone to their Twitter handle, and when you look at it, some of the celebrities do reply, some of them don't reply. But this trolling factor, it's interesting. See, I wouldn't say that you shouldn't mention that the troll said something interesting, but the fact remains is that when it's bordering over hate,
Correct.
which is supposed to be the biggest concern in media right now, because in this country where we have so much of diversity and so much of individual expressionisms, this is a huge ethical problem that I think every media house is facing, because people are making stories of trolls, and then some people go to find out who these trolls are, and the trolls are doing it so that they themselves can be famous. Because I irritated this a celebrity, or I irritated this politician, or something like that. And it's not that there is any substance in what they are saying. If there's a difference between a critic and a troll. And
Correct.
the problem is the troll is not criticizing, or it's not bringing out an intellectual comment about a certain situation or giving the other view. The person is doing it for the sake of doing it. And some of the comments that are being put out is and then we make stories about it.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
when we're making stories about it, you're giving importance to what the person said. Even now, some people are very smart enough, they go ahead and they blur the comment, but the troll's name is there. So that you can
Yes.
go on internet, on the Twitter, and just find out the identity of the person and read what the kind of comments that person has put out.
True. True.
So this is one thing that I've seen as a major ethical challenge that has come. That is one. Second, of course, when it comes to issues about, like, you want to just express yourself and do things, again over there, what is the kind of audience that you're keeping with the thing itself, the dangers of social media? I was speaking about the opportunity about it. Now, since we're talking about it, I think the dangers of it. Every individual has got a voice. Now, what he's saying is his content, something that borders around defamation, whether
Correct.
it is something that borders around even sedition.
Yes.
We have no clue about it, because
Correct. Yeah.
they have been able to just express hate. They are able to just express. In fact, I was surprised that some people have, in fact, expressed the idea of dismemberment of this country, and they were
Yes.
sitting somewhere in London to go ahead and speak about it.
Yes.
And even the propagandas by certain agencies are also in place. So that individual voice is good enough, but I'm not talking for regulation, but from an ethical point of view,
Yes.
how do you filter it out?
Correct. Correct.
A lot of people might have been inexperienced and they just express an opinion
Correct.
without
Correct.
understanding the thing. And then someone else might challenge them because social media,
Correct.
anyone can come with it.
Correct.
And then it becomes like, for example, the person's religion or caste, everything is taken and becomes a totally different debate from what was actually spoken about.
True.
So
Yeah.
this is the way that it is moving. So another shocking thing about a lot of people go to some of the articles that are there in even prestigious media houses.
Yes.
They don't read the article, they go to read the comments in the article.
Correct. Correct. Because that's more interesting. Yeah.
The comments of fight that is happening, and
Yeah.
ideas are being framed. So how do you put that into ethical perspective? These are some of the things that we have been taught that don't write like this,
Correct. Correct.
all that. But here it is a totally different, because here the individual is expressing his opinion. So the media houses can wash off their hands and say that the individuals are fighting has nothing to do with it. I mean, that was just a platform comments.
True.
You
True.
can wash your hands of it, but can you wash your hands of it? Because more than the article, the comment section is getting more relevant.
More attention. Yeah,
than the article.
that's interesting. Yeah, I have a question from the audience. Somebody is asking: news has become views and opinions. Do you owe this change to social media and freedom of expression? I think that kind of leads us again to the question of if you want to become a hardcore journalist, it is very important for you to have some education in, like what Varghese said, in sedition. You need to know some basic things, because you might be a good writer, but then if you're constantly voicing your opinion and you're just voicing your views, even some very important television channels, it is becoming more a battle of voices. Okay, so that is where I think your traditional journalism education is very important. But at the end of the day, like Father Saji said, it comes down to your personal ethics. And my experience after being in the media for so many years is that as a human being, you should be a very secular person. You should be a very non-religious person. You should be like, people always ask me when I was covering politics, which political party do you vote for? So, basically in India, you're not supposed party you vote for, because it's democracy and it's a secret ballot. But there was one policy that I always followed, and that is I never voted for any major political party. Because the minute I say I identify myself with Congress or with BJP or with Janata Party, which then we had, J.H. Patel was the chief minister when I started writing reports, it will start showing and having a bearing on what I am doing. I hope.
I think ma'am is facing an internet issue. All of you kindly continue with your discussion. Meanwhile, she joins.
Ma'am, I think you have put it unmute. You have to unmute.
Ma'am, you're on mute.
I think she has to unmute.
She's trying to see.
Is it fine now?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, we have around 8 minutes left. So I'll just, give you all just quick for last 4 minutes. My last message is to Father Shaji. Youth are a little worried now, especially the ones who are passing out the final year. They, want to know if there is, anything that is going to help them with their, job opportunities. So I just want a message from you of promise for them, saying that things will be fine in a few more days, and that they must work towards becoming media professionals. What is it that you would like to tell them?
The question is, I think, who will give us the job? Who will give me a job? And I think nobody. The answer is nobody. So in terms of looking for a job, an opportunity after studies, or after the pandemic is somewhat settled, I think we must have an attitude of the buck stops here.
Yeah.
Like, as an individual, I must say there is no institution, no industry which is offering a job or holding a job out to me. I must find my own job and do something relevant. Same way, the institution also should feel, I think the individual is at a crisis point, and industries also facing an amount of crisis due to the pandemic and the economy, etc. And let me take a kind of a step ahead and do something. Same also, industry can do a little bit of empathetic towards existing employees as well as the newcomers who would come in. I think that way kind of the buck stops me. I take responsibility for the other and my own
Correct.
job, etc. Could help. And on terms of a concrete thing, we in the college we're discussing about having a small kind of an incubation co-working media space. Okay, which I
Interesting.
spoke to the principal, and we are already looking at funds and looking at other collaborators, etc. Where if students are not able to get into a job immediately, and maybe they lost a year because of late exams and results, etc. They could take up individual works, freelance works, and work with the assurance that you have a space, you have a system, you have a camera, you have other consultant and support system. You can come to college and still work individual projects and deliver to the clients and make some money, or things like that. So that way we are also looking at that possibility. Not possibility, we already decided, and looking at the other logistics of it. And that's how I think we must take care of ourselves. As only as the pandemic we take care of ourselves, don't spread. The same way I think in terms of job also, don't expect the other to offer anything, but they offer, be happy about it.
Yeah. Okay. I want to ask Sanjana if she has a plea to Verghese, as an industry representative. What would the plea be as a student?
Uh, I don't know. I think to be a little bit considerate about taking in students as interns, because right now it's very important for me to have an internship, have that experience. But for me to work at a nice reputed media company, I need to have contacts on the inside. Otherwise, I'm not allowed into the building. So how do I approach that? What is it, sir? What would you suggest that I do?
Well, Sanjana, what you said is like it is known as a contact disease within India itself. Unless you have something, you won't be able to pull in things like that. You have to have contacts, is what they say. Now, having have said that, I would say that a lot of people tend to skip seminars, conferences that have been held by the college and all that. Now, these are prominent people who are coming there. As a student, you should be able to ensure that you have contacts built with these people. In
Right.
fact, if there is any student, they should actually know that in the last, maybe your degree days to your, if I'm giving you 3 plus 2, 5 years, your master's, those 5 years, there are so many speakers coming, so many industrial people coming in. Take down their mobile phone numbers, take down their emails, keep in touch with them, try to do speak with, always be in contact with them and try to speak with them. Now when the college is organizing for these famous personalities or these people to give you special talks or things like that, the idea is also that you build up contacts. A lot of students make the cardinal mistake of just skipping these sessions, giving reasons to skip these sessions. I'm telling you right now, see, the pandemic has opened a lot of eyes, and especially to me, a lot of people out there, it's actually opened up a lot of things in the sense that we have understood the value of such things that the institutions are providing. Never do that mistake of skipping these sessions.
Yeah.
Sessions should never be skipped. And for you, I'm telling you, I won't be able to say that. I will be able to tell you, you go drop a application for internship over there and things like that. I would be able to say that is, if you're lucky, they might actually pull out, because there are many organizations will be in desperate need during an election or something like that where they would require interns. And if you're lucky enough to have dropped that period out, your CV or your form would be considered. But it is a longer run strategy, because in this country, whether we like it or not, it works on contacts.
Yeah.
And for that, you need to be in touch with these people who are coming in. And then what happens is, when a student comes out of the college, they suddenly realize, I don't have contacts, I don't have any. That is not the way. The institutions, all institutions, they are actually giving you those people who are special guests who have been brought in. They're giving you that opportunity to build contacts. And a lot of students don't realize that these individuals, when they come, it might be boring, it might be whatever it is, but the contact that you have to be building with these people is very important. At the end of the day, journalism is only as good as these contacts are. So in this especially, you have to be in touch, and these contacts pay, especially in these pandemic times. And at least they can give you a assurance saying that it is not possible now. Maybe in 6 months later, you can do something about it, but you need to be in touch. That is very important.
Yeah. The last message is from Sekulu. I just want her to summarize what she learned out of this session and how useful it was for her.
one thing will be like from different perspectives. Father Saji is there who taught me in college. Sanjana is there who is still a student. Sir Fergus is there. So the varied perspectives really helped me also navigate, because I have varied interests when it comes to media. I want to write, I want to do that, I want to do films and blah blah. So I think I came to a conclusion where this confusion or this interest in different things is also normal as it is. And one thing that Sir Fergus mentioned about building context, it is also something I've learned after I came out of college. And, like the internships that I did, there are people I met at a certain event. And, I went and I just introduced myself. And though they wouldn't, remember me, I took down their number. And then one day I'm like, you wouldn't remember me, but I remembered you because you attended our, fest on that day. And then I am, Father Saji's student and blah, blah. So, those minute introductions that we feel are not really important helps us in a long run. Like I've met people in 2018 and now I'm working for them, as a freelancer. So as a freelancer or not, you need to build context when it comes to media. And that is something I was also reminded about today.
Yeah. Okay, I think it's almost time now. I just would like to end the session by thanking all the panelists and by telling particularly to the youngsters, because this is meant for youth. This, being aimed at youth is something I learned in Times of India. I was working. They always said, write stories for people below 35. So people above 35, forget it. So I had to put pictures of models in place of putting dirty roads, because below 35 will not see a dirty road. So, everything is, aimed at the youth. So the only message I have to give students who are looking for media jobs is be on the go, follow your passion. I still remember as a 17-year-old, I would walk into the Indian Express office and tell them, give me a job, and they would laugh at me. So then, they just didn't know what to do, because I would just walk into newspaper offices and tell them, give me any job. So at one point they told me, okay, type letters to the editor. So there were times when I typed a letter to the editor. One day the letter was short. They said, you write a letter and type. So that made me so happy. My first letters to the editor. Everything is saved and kept now, because those days we didn't have the computer. So it is just about, I have a son who's 21 years old. It is just about the go for it attitude. Even in his class, not all of them are placed in whatever subject they pursue. You need to be passionate about your field of interest, and you need to pursue it with a lot of ethics. At the end of the day, you will survive in the field only if you have the ethics. You might have somebody who's a big figure, for example, like a Vijay Mallya in front of you, and you also want to become as rich as him. But time will tell you that these figures which are not built on a solid foundation will break. And time will show you that, okay? So my message to media students who are looking for careers is to follow your passion. Firstly, have a passion. Find out what your passion is. And the medium depends on your proficiency. You might be extremely good at YouTube or visual media or whatever, but have your content in place. Before you walk into a newspaper office asking for a job, you should have at least written or published 15 to 20 articles somewhere, anywhere. So instead of me asking who Sanjana, I should actually be asking, oh, are you Sanjana, when you walk in? So it has to be inevitable for me to give you a job. I hope you understand that. So sometimes even if I don't have a vacancy, I should create it for you. So that is the kind of environment we worked in. Particularly when I started, women were never in journalism. So, we were just one or two women covering crime, and sometimes the cops would intimidate us, asking, why did you come? These are not fields for women, just walk out. So with all that restrictions, now it's a free playing field for anybody. You can write anything, you can come out with anything. So I think this excessive freedom that is given to you, this excessive choice that is given to you, should be utilized in a very ethical way, should be utilized in a way that is going to make you feel good, because 40 years from now, when you look back at your career, you should be really happy with yourself. Because, I pat my back that I have not taken a single bribe from a politician, or written a story to please somebody, or written a quote that was cooked up because I didn't have time. We took the trouble, we invested in the profession. And those days, let me tell you, as journalists, when we walked into people's offices, they stood up for us, because they were in awe of the stories we wrote. If I wrote a story that a BBMP commissioner is corrupt, you can be sure that the state home minister would replace him in a week's time, because I had the correct facts of why he is corrupt. Okay, so your foundation should be strong. I wish all of you the very best. I thank Father Saji. Verghese, Sanjana, and Sekulu for this very meaningful session that we had, and hope we meet once again at some other forum and exchange our views. Thank you so much.
Thank you
ma'am.
so much, ma'am. Thank you, Roja, ma'am. Beautifully, all of you expressed your opinions, and all of you contributed so amazingly to this discussion. I think all of us would agree that we all have a lot to think about, not just as a media student, but as a human being. So we all have so many things to think about what kind of content we are going to be consuming. And thank you so much for providing us that insight. So this was an amazing session. Thank you, Verghese sir. Thank you, Saji sir. Thank you, Sanjay.